There she goes. I screwed it up and she recorded when I hit the other button. I'm like, shit, how are we going to edit her out? All right, here we go. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of the Size Up by National Fire Radio. And I still think I'm going to be amazed every time I say these numbers. Like, it's like a new thing for me, but the number just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I just keep getting more and more excited every time I get to say what episode we're on. So that's kind of exciting. This is a really cool episode of the podcast because this is like a part two, I guess, from an episode that we recorded for National Fire Radio last year with good old Robert Ridley, who is running either late or MIA right now to join this talk, but we kicked it off anyway here because the Size Up starts on time, unlike some other podcasts I may know. And my guests were anxiously waiting to jump on. So here in, it's cool because we have international listeners, so I can kind of say this as well. Here in the United States, the month of June is known as Pride Month. And we did an episode last year on National Fire Radio that we didn't really call the Pride Month episode, but we interviewed my good friend Dallas Cooper from Texas. Dallas, how you doing today?
Doing good. Good to see you again.
That's great to see you too, man. And we had a great episode with Dallas last year. And it was interesting because, like I said, we didn't call it the Pride Month episode. We just interviewed Dallas as a fire captain there in Houston. And about halfway through, it wasn't like a reveal, was it? I don't know. What do you want to call it? How did we
No, but it was a great segue, into it. And it just like kind of the way Rob did it, it just was like bam in your face, not in your face, but because it was me rambling about the Houston Fire Department for almost 25 minutes. And I listened back to it and I'm like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's wrong. You screwed that up.
Oh, I didn't know we were going to make corrections today.
No, there were like a few things I was like,
there
were a few things I said. I'm like, we don't have 50 something ladder trucks. Where did that come from? But it helped also with my nerves a little bit because it was a sensitive subject a little bit, or personal.
A very personal subject. And I think it was good the way we rolled into it. And I know you've gotten a lot of feedback throughout the year. I know I've gotten a lot of feedback throughout the year about it. But before we get into your story, I do want to introduce Keri Lawson, who's sitting there very patiently waiting to join our conversation. Keri, can you tell everybody where you're from and what it is you do?
I am from the Charleston, South Carolina area. I work for St. John's Fire District, and I am currently an engineer on a Quint.
Oh, sorry. So sorry.
Yeah. And on the Marine team.
And on the Marine team. Oh, cool. Because you're on an island, right? St. John's is an island, sort of, kind of?
Correct. Yeah, St. John's Fire District covers 4 different islands.
Okay. But those islands, so you have the mainland and then you go out to the island? Like people live on the island? Or?
Well, they're just called, Johns Island, Wadmalaw Island, Seabrook, and Kiowa Island.
Okay, but they're like true islands, like no bridge to get there. Got to take a boat.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there are bridges, like small ones.
Gotcha. Do they have any stations out on the islands?
Yes, Station 2, where I'm from, or where I'm stationed at, is on Seabrook, and then we have 2 stations on Kiowa, 1 on Wadmalaw, and the rest are on Johns Island. So, and we have 7 stations.
Awesome. That is really cool. And I guess that's why you need a Quint, because you're kind of alone for a while, I would say. You have to be able to do everything. How many people ride on the Quint? 5 or 4?
4.
4? See, I'm all for the Quint if you can get 5 people on it. Right? I feel like that's what it is. That's like the give and take, that if you're going to make me do both jobs, I want to have 5 people with me, 4 other people and me, let's say.
Yeah, so that would be nice for sure.
It's definitely the dream when you have that. And usually, well, I shouldn't say this. The last time I interviewed Keri, she had a wicked mustache like Dallas and I have right now.
Yeah.
She forgot it today.
I did.
I feel bad.
I think I will forever be remembered as the girl with the mustache at FDIC 2023.
I wouldn't. There's no denying it, because it was Thursday at FDIC, and I saw you at like 1 PM, and then I ran into you again that night at like 8:30 at night, and you still were the girl with the mustache.
Yep.
It was like the best fake mustache ever.
Yeah, it was fun. The looks that I got were pretty amazing.
Awesome. And you have been married to your partner for 10 years, if I did my internet research correctly?
No, 6, but that ends this year. it's bittersweet, I guess, but it's amicable.
Gotcha. Understand. So with that kind of and moving into the future, you do travel a lot. I know that. I know we're going to get into your travel here for sure. But to pop back over to Dallas, and then we're going to kick it back and forth. This past year, getting comments about the last podcast, how did that change things for you, socially, at work, anything like that?
At work, it just made guys really proud. A lot of them were friends. I'd pass it to them. There were some apologies actually a few times. Like, man, I really didn't know all that was going on. I feel like I wasn't as good a friend or a coworker. And I go, well, I hid it. I kept a lot of it to myself until I decided it was time to stand up for myself. That. But the messages I get from people, and I'll tell you that there's some of them that I can't even make it through them. I have to like take a minute, process it, and read, the thank yous and all that stuff. Glad I'm not alone. I feel alone. One person said, thanks for paving the way. And I go, I don't think I did that, but
I just talked on a podcast. I think
yeah,
that was all I did.
Yeah. But it's changed. And I still share it to this day. And I either get, some people just go neat, that I did get one negative, about a guy I talked about in there. Didn't mention his name, but he knew exactly who he was when you talk about the guy with the Confederate flag. He called me up. He goes, man, we worked together for years, this, that, and the other. And I can't believe you thought that of me. And I go, I never hid my feelings. I mean, we were assigned to the same station, we were on the crew, you were just the racist POS, and I called you out on it. But I called him out to that, like, all the time, like his opinions on things. It was nothing new. He wasn't like shocked. He just felt, I don't know how he felt, but he called me. He was really drunk when he called too.
Well, you'll have that too. I was gonna.
Oh,
I
he
was
was
gonna ask,
lit.
did that help the situation or make it worse?
I think
I would say.
I think he's an 18 pack a day kind of guy. So it was, I had to. As soon as the phone rang, I knew what he was calling about too.
But I think too, with one of the things that that we talked about last year was, like you said, that fear and that hiding it type of a situation. And I know for you, that was something that the message you wanted to get out there, that it was okay to not hide it.
Yeah.
And a lot of these messages that you've been getting, has that been a common theme?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of people, that's, they talk about, like, hey, you made it okay. You made me realize I just have to find my crew, my tribe. I have to find the ones that when I show up to work, they respect that part of my life. They respect that part of me, and they know I'm just here to do the job. And, and if they get to know you on the side and all, that's it. A lot of people really realize that it's just finding that right crew,
And that's the truth. That's the truth for everybody, right? Like, no matter who you are, you have to have the right crew of people that you're with, whether it be your sexual orientation, your views on life, definitely your politics these days is way stronger than anything probably, or than it's ever been in the past, I guess. But, I feel like it's the same for all of us, right?
Right.
What about you, Keri? Like, when we're talking about this, you can feel free to chime in anytime too. This is your podcast as well. But, that hiding it stage of things, was that something that you went through or no?
So I actually, when you asked me to be on this, I did go back and listen to the last year's episode with Dallas, and I share the same feeling with him as, like, when Dallas, when you went to the new officer, and was like, hey, I'm gay, like, I wanted to tell you myself, and he's like, oh, okay, like, big dip, right? So I've learned, like, I was in this group in college. It was called Love is for Everyone, and I had the advisor that ran it said something that was really impactful to me, and I took it with me ever since. She said that she shared an experience when she was interviewing for a job, and she just said, like, because she had past problems with coming out afterwards and getting fired or whatever, and I had actually been fired one time for it. And so after that, I took what she said and ran with it. And any interview that I have, I don't say, hi, I'm Keri, I'm gay.
That would be
I
weird.
just,
That would be a little
right.
strange. I'm just gonna put that out there for everybody. That would be a little weird.
Exactly. I just kind of subtly put it out there, like, yeah, my wife and I just moved here from da 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 da, da. Or, so I just make them know, like I make it known in the interview. So if they choose not to hire me then for that reason, then so be it. But I want them to know before they choose to hire me, because I won't hide it. And I will come out and tell my crew about it. But I find it the easiest is not to hide it, be honest, and not push it in their face by any means, but just be like normal, like
The
a
same as me
heterosexual
saying
couple.
my wife and I.
Yeah,
You say your wife
yeah,
and I. Okay, well, yeah,
exactly.
that's the
Like
biscuits. Like,
my family, my wife and I might, whatever. I mean, and if you choose to say partner, if you're not married or whatever, but like just be honest. And I found just being honest up front is so much easier, because if people know that you're comfortable with it, they're going to be comfortable with it, most of them. And
Yeah.
those that aren't will either show it or will just be quiet. And that's kind of been my experience.
yeah, no, I think that honest, that it's just being, again, you say being honest. It's the same as me. I'm married. It's my wife. These are my kids. The same as you say, it's my wife or it's my husband or my partner. No matter what you say, you're just sharing part of your life. And I feel like for the folks that aren't as open as you guys are, let's say, that pain inside, it just has to keep growing. Right.
Mhm.
And is that something that you've heard about or experienced at all, that it's just growing and growing and almost making it worse and keeps them from coming out?
Oh yeah, it definitely does. And I think in today's, man, the political climate today and all that, and just the rhetoric is probably adding to that internal monster that's eating you from the inside out. So, mentally, physically, emotionally, however it's building. And I think that's adding to it. And then if you go to a job or you go to a department, and it's not supportive, your crew's not, or you're the joke of the day or the butt of the joke, or like I told my last one, someone was always wanting to tell my story before I even got there. And that's why I finally went. I'm like, no, bro, I'm coming now. And it was, I remember that moment and all, that to that captain I told, and it just, it's weight off your shoulders. It's the same weight that was lifted off my shoulders when I was 16 years old and I told my parents. I didn't say I think I'm gay. I think I'm this, that, or the other. I just said I'm gay, and then the hallelujahs and the beat the Bible came. We were a good old church going family, and so it was all. But yeah, I was still, even though I was struggling at that age, at 16, trying to figure me out, trying to figure out what was going on, because I had never been exposed to anybody who was gay except one cousin who I saw randomly once a year, at a family reunion. That weight was lifted, even though I was trying to still figure me out, and it does. It's, and when you have support at work and all, and it's not an issue, it's even better.
Mhm.
And I think that support is so key. And again, being honest and open is going to garnish you that support, because the rest of us, me being on the other side of the table, let's say, understand that, hey, this is this person, this is Keri, this is Dallas, and this is their life. And I know I'm 100% okay with it. I don't know if everyone I work with would be or not, but that's for them to figure out with the person that's saying it. So that having it inside, like I said, I just can't imagine the pain they must be feeling. And I just watched the Ted Lasso episode. Well, I didn't just watch it, but this season's Ted Lasso episode, where there's some spoilers coming here, where one of the football players comes out to the team.
Oh.
And I felt like it was done so well.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of explained that like sports end of it, where they weren't mad at him for saying he was homosexual. They were mad at him for hiding the fact that he was homosexual from their friends or their family. And that family is the same as we should have in the fire service. It's not always going to be the Partridge family. Let's, call it what it is here.
Yeah.
But we could do our best to make it that, right?
It was funny you say that, because so me and the B shift captain are good friends. And I'm on A shift, and we're a pretty tight group. I was at shift change. I was given the changeover report. This broke. We got this fixed. Made this fire. Blah blah blah.
Wait, that
And
happens to you too? It doesn't just happen to me? Like things break in your firehouse?
well, no, things break, and they magically make it to the workbench for a week, and they're like, "Oh, what happened?" I go, "Well, that road that you took to get to the station's the same road that will take you to supply to get this fixed." Because it
That's amazing.
magically didn't get fixed by the station ferries in the middle of the night that come in and make things right again.
Ours come in at night and they make things right. Like the help, I like to call those folks the helper elves. The helper elves like to help all the time.
You should see me if I walk in and see something on the bench. They're just like, and I'll pick that date up and see the date that this has been broke for a week. But what I was getting at, I was giving the changeover report, and one of his guys walked up to another guy and flat out called him a derogatory gay slur in front of me. Like I was standing right there, and I went, And so I finished because I was wanting to get home, and I just picked the phone up and I called and I said, "Jeremy, I had to settle down before I called you, but this is what happened." And he didn't catch it because he was like on the phone and all. And he goes, "I'll pull him in." I said, "Let him tell you this. An apology goes a long way, because the ash tune they're going to get next time from me is going to be something serious." And he goes, "Okay." And he called back later and he goes, "Oh, they do not want you chewing them out. They have already apologized. They'll be talking to you in the morning." But they think it's almost like they're too relaxed around you sometimes.
Yep. I was just going to say, and you get that too much of comfortability that can happen there. And speaking of comfortability, we're joined by my co-host a few minutes late, because on the Size Up, we start on time, buddy. This isn't National Fire Radio. This is the Size Up National Fire Radio. But welcome to the conversation, Robert. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fantastic. The day is going really well.
Good. I love your wood paneling that you have behind you. It's very, we just talked about the Partridge Family a little bit, so it's very appropriate that I brought that up there. We were singing your praises, though, a little earlier before you came on, for the way the episode that we did with Dallas last year went, and the way we just kind of, sprung that it was the Pride Month episode halfway through there. So, we've just been talking about changes since then. So welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, no, that was a good episode, and I got a lot of people definitely were, Dallas and I pulled it. Once we pulled a fast one, but I love the segue that we were able to do there.
I think that worked out perfectly because there was really no direction. Like I was telling Rob, there was nothing. We were just going right and talking. It was like me rambling about the Houston Fire Department and asking questions. And a lot of people who I passed the episode off to, who are friends or whatever, and they go, "I'm going to hear it." I go, "You can just skip the first 20 minutes because it's just me, just like." And I said, "You already kind of know what it's going to be about." But I said, and most of them do. They're like, "Oh yeah, I listened to about 5 minutes of you talking fire stuff, and I moved on."
I jumped to the 25-minute mark where it gets good. That's where the juiciness starts. But what we were sort of, Dallas just told a story about someone in his station that maybe was a little too comfortable and used a slur in front of Dallas they did not appreciate. So that comfortability factor that can occur kind of on the reverse side of having that family. Keri, have you ever had, that type of a situation come up where there's some folks that may be a bit too comfortable around you?
Oh yeah. All the jokes. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes too, where again, if you take me as the opposite side of the spectrum and I'm making the joke, obviously I get loads of jokes made about myself and my height, my mustache, my weight, my mohawk, my podcast, you name it. Sometimes they start to hurt, over time. And not everyone realizes that. But if you don't correct that person or correct that behavior, it's never going to change.
That's 100% true. But back to what I was saying, when I told my bud, I said that an ash chewing is coming, and it's not going to be a Captain Cooper ash chewing. It's going to be a Dallas Cooper, ash chewing. That's not the one you want. The badge comes off. Let's go to the parking lot. We're going to have a talk. And I'm at that point in my life. I just turned 47, and I'm just like, sometimes you're like, I'm just done with the crap. There's jokes, and then there's like jokes at your expense that are pushing it to, and they're trying to push that. You got to step up sometimes. It is the firehouse. I do get that. But the reason I look at it too is we may not know that other person sitting in that room, It may be another young gay firefighter, male or female, who hasn't come out yet. And that joke may be doing what you were talking about earlier, Rob, just bearing down on them while they try to make their way in this job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that, again, I think as a culture, I feel like we're getting better at least where I work. I feel like we're getting better at it because there's definitely things that were said when I was hired 20 years ago that are not said anymore, is an easy way to put it. And if they are, there's definitely, and it's not just me as an officer. I mean, there's senior firefighters and even younger firefighters looking over at that person like, nah, man, that we can't do that anymore. Like,
Yeah.
And that goes into that changes in society and things like that. So I think it's a good way to move forward. Go ahead, Rob. I see you.
No, I think that it's, like you run the balance of comfortability. And what I always try to impress upon people is that, you know, Dallas, Keri, even you, Pip, like we all have a commonality that we know each other. And there's like I say, like, the intent of the joke is like when it's a joke and it's humor, it's a joke and it's a humor. And Tina Fey said something about a fair hit. But oftentimes what we get ourselves in is that we're not making a fair hit. We're saying something that is that we don't realize it's offensive. And like there's a line that gets crossed. Like I have a rule that the R word is off limits. Like I have somebody that I'm very close with, their son has issues, and I don't tolerate it, and I don't tolerate deviations of the word. And I said to somebody one day, I was like, you have to really, like, to you it's funny, but to them it's not. It's their life. And the same thing happens just in general with any kind of, and you can say something and it can be offensive and you not realize it. The key point is not to be offended when the person corrects you, because you may not know something is like my sister used a term once and she had no clue that it was a racial slur. She had heard it and like it wasn't in the context that it was, and she said it out loud in mixed company, and like the record stopped, but like it didn't. Like Janet was mortified, but at the same time, like she had friends who were like, "Hey, you know what that means?" And she's like, "Yeah, it just means to change lanes." And they're like, "No, no." And but she clearly had no idea what the terminology was. So I think like there's a and I missed the context before, but like I say to people like, hey, like listen, and actually like listen aggressively when somebody corrects you, because oftentimes like you don't have to beat yourself up, you don't have to be angry at them, but listen aggressively and hear where they're coming from, because you reflect on it and just I don't want to say move on, but apologize and go about with a new change in direction. So I don't know if I feel like I just rambled there.
Not at all, man. It all made sense to what you said. And it's one of these things that, we all like to say we're going to leave the fire service better than we found it. And for some folks, they are going to die on the hill that it's because they got their department to use smoothbore nozzles and not combination tips, or they went to 2.5-inch hose and that's it. But in reality, it's also these emotional things that we're talking about now, and these interpersonal things that, look, just because 20 years ago in the fire service, it was okay to say or do something doesn't mean it is anymore. And it's something with the show. So I do love the TV show Entourage, and I listened to a podcast with it, and that show did not age well. And the host of that show started realizing maybe by like the 8th episode that he was doing, like, wow, this show really didn't age well. And the R word that you mentioned there is used like, I can't even count how many times. And then I think about my younger youth and using that word. And I was like, I don't even know if my kids know that word, is a good way to put it now. And that's okay. It's okay that we've progressed. And I hope we progressed more than we were a year ago when we did this episode. Unfortunately, I feel like there's a new fight out there, and I guess we'll probably get into that eventually. But yeah, it's just that leaving it better than we found it.
So the one at my fire station for a long time was the and Keri, you probably heard this, people would say like, well, that's so gay, and I'd turn to me like, how? I said, you're making that a negative, right? So you're making being gay in it by saying that's so gay, just like with the other people would say that's so, and do it, it's a negative connotation, and you just gotta like you got to stand up to it sometimes. And it may make you the uncool guy or the not fun guy, but you know, it's doing it. I really believe standing up and saying the right thing and stopping some of this stuff, and that is helpful for that little quiet person in the corner. You know, we have, oh my gosh, they are scheduling. They didn't even tell us this was coming, but they're scheduling these high school students to come ride our ambulance who are taking EMT courses and all. And these kids are 16, 17. One of them had to get dropped off. They couldn't even drive into the firehouse at like shift change. I walked in one morning. I was like, hey, whose kid's here today? They're like, oh no, she's riding me. And I was like, oh, this is bad. And so then I'm on the phone with the EMS supervisor, like, hey, do you know about this? Yeah. And I was like, nobody said anything. And I like go out in the bay. I'm like, everybody get over here now. Like right now, there's a 15 like go out in the parking lot, get whatever out of your system, you know, but that's the person who, the young kid that may, you know, come from an abusive relationship. And we just came back from another assault call, you know, and someone's making jokes about it or something. You know, so that's where I kind of got to look at it, I think, more now, just not as a person or as an officer, just in general for society.
Yeah, I agree. So like when things like that are said, like that's so gay, or like I don't like the F word in those terms.
Right.
If someone says that, then I definitely shut that down, and then we have a conversation about boundaries and about expectations. Like sure, I'll joke with you and I'll, you know, laugh about the lighter stuff, but when it comes to using who I am as a derogatory thing, then that's a boundary that I set with other people. I don't respect that. You know, if I said that's so straight as being negative, heterosexual people would probably get offended, or, you know, like, just those are already known, you know, like it's, and I don't know why this isn't, like, why are we still using those terms, as a negative kind of like a notion towards somebody. But yeah, I definitely shut that down and let my crews that I'm working with know where my boundaries are. Like, you don't talk about my family, I wouldn't talk about yours. You know, whatever, like your boundaries are with yourself is probably the same as mine. But also, these terms are not allowed in front of me, and I would highly respect if you thought about not using them when I'm not present either. Like, and I tell them, and I explain why, you know, like, because you just never know who's around you, and who it may affect, and how sensitive that term is at that point. And so it's a good discussion for everybody. It's a teaching moment, and it steers people in the right direction.
And it's such a good, like, I loved how you said it's a teaching moment, because right, it's our job in every aspect of the way to teach others everything, right? In my opinion, you're always sharing. And if you didn't say that to your crew, they wouldn't understand that. And some of them may need to be educated on that because they were not raised in a family, sort of like how Dallas said, you know, he had one homosexual cousin that he saw once a year. So we're still to that point. I still feel like society is getting better. We're just nowhere near where we need to be, when it comes to that understanding. And, you know, when you have these younger firefighters or have a high school ride along in the firehouse with you, I mean, regardless of anything, that has to change how everyone is, because these are people looking up to you. And how do you want to be looked up to? You know, do you want to be looked up as the person that was highly offensive in every way, shape, or form? Or do you want to be looked up as a professional like you should be?
One thing I wanted to add real quick was, like, when we correct it, it's very personal. But when a friend or somebody in the room corrects it, it really, you know, says, hey man, this isn't cool. Cut that conversation out. That just, that's the world to me. Like when you have a friend stand up for you, they didn't have to. I mean, yeah, they, in my opinion, they should, because it's correcting a bad behavior. But when somebody's doing something and they stand up and like, hey man, cut that out, that person just gets elevated for me, because it's not always gonna make you the popular cool guy. You know, you'll get the not fun guy label. You know,
Absolutely.
Do you guys?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, sorry, Keri.
No worries. I was just saying, I agree that it's very respectful of others to stand up and say it, because no matter if they're a friend of ours or not, it's just respectful for any group of people, like just to stand up for something that's wrong. And, oftentimes it might just be what people are used to saying, how they grew up. And it was like in their environment. And so they just need that repetition of correction and just a reminder like, hey, let's try and use a different word, kind of thing. And then the more that they get corrected, they're like, oh, shoot, like they catch themselves and then they correct their own behavior.
Sometimes they may need a more stern reminder from you, but that constant reminder, I like the way that you put that, the very gentle, soft way that you put it. It's just like a constant reminder. And then one day you can get a shut the F up type reminder, or, but that's it. And it's those teaching moments that really matter. Go ahead.
What do you got? I was gonna say too, like because I've gotten the, in dealing with similar issues, I've gotten the excuse that, oh no, my friend is XYZ. And I always say, is your friend here? Like, oh, they're not? Because like your relationship with them can be completely different than what this relationship that's going on in this room is, and the context is missing and everything else. So it doesn't mean it's appropriate. I have friends from all over. So like because I find that's always a struggle as somebody will say something like they'll relate like, I don't want to say a time they've been given permission, but I don't know how to quite articulate it, that they've been out with a different group of people, but now they're in this professional environment and they're making this joke and they think they've gotten like a carte blanche approval to say something, and that's not what's going on. And Keri, I just like how you put the repetition of behavior, and like, because I think that that's the important part, is like, like, because I don't think anybody's trying to hem anybody up when it comes to, like, it's not like Dallas is walking in or Keri's walking in and being like, all right, my goal today is if somebody slips up, pink slip time, like, we're getting like, no, like, because that's not the life that you guys want to live, and that's not what it's ultimately about. It's that corrective action and that repetition, and like kind of like being like, hey, like this, like, and eventually, like you said, like it kicks because you have to break whatever was before. And I think so many times there's like a little bit of humility in it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like it's like you have to, because like I don't know, I've just had some stuff sometimes where people have said something and I've just been like silent, and they're like, yo, wow, you're not usually one to not say something. And I'm like, yeah. So about that,
now is the time to not say something. Watch this. This is a time where I'm gonna not say something. Believe it or not. Like,
Rob, I think that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Keri. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that situation that you were discussing is a poor justification and a cop out, like just to like be cool, or just to say something and be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, but it's okay because blah blah blah. It's not okay.
Right.
That doesn't give you a valid reason to say any of that. But also, what I was gonna say is like the psychological person in me is reinforcing positive behavior is helpful as well. So if someone, I mean, they don't have to say it and then be corrected. They could say something like, are you married, or do you have a partner? Instead of assuming like, where's your husband, or do you have a wife or something? If they ask like, do you have a partner? Are you married? Like, just in subtle ways like that, like I would say, thank you for not assuming that I have a husband, or, thank you for wording it that way. And I appreciate that, and so reinforcing that positive behavior gives them like this big smile, like they did something right, they're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And so then that's also a teaching moment for them. And then also they go and teach somebody else that, instead of like, oh, don't say gay around her because she's gonna chew your head off, kind of thing. So
I actually ran into that. I was doing an overtime shift at a station. Didn't know anybody on this, And I was standing there and it was just morning conversation. And the guy just goes, "So what does your wife do?" And I just said, "Oh, I have a partner and he does blah, blah, blah." And you saw him for a second and he just goes, "Yeah, I shouldn't have just assumed that." And he was really funny. He was really cool about it. Then he asked more, and then the conversation was able to easily progress into a friendly conversation. But the look on his face, like I think he was cooking breakfast or he's at the counter. He just did the whole, yeah, and like had that moment. But it was a small teaching moment for him where he actually kind of, I think, taught himself more than me teaching him. And so in the rest of the day, there weren't any issues and this, that, and the other, but it was kind of like, I very can vividly remember it. And I saw him not so long ago and he was super, "Hey, how's it going?" This, that, and the other. So, I think a lot of times, and I feel, we can teach people, but when they can teach themselves, it's better because then they have a little more humility in it all instead of you being the guy that's over here like, "This is why you should or shouldn't do that."
No, that's better in any aspect of anything. If you could have someone, like you just said, teach themselves, or he caught himself in that, like, "Oh, probably shouldn't have done that," and then actually verbalized it. Didn't even just and was like, "Man, I just," and anyone else that was in that room was probably like, "Oh, good call. Good call, Chief," as we like to say on things like that. Good call with that. But I think too, with the changes that are happening in society and everything being more just in our face these days, because of social media, because of the media, not just social media, but how any situations that you never would have thought would be an issue are currently an issue for some strange reason. And how has that affected you in this past year? Since we talked last, Dallas or Keri, whoever wants to go first, what's happening, in the country these days? And if that's too deep, we don't have to talk about it.
Well, we're in Texas, so.
Well, I do. And too, so this is interesting too, because you have I'm looking on the screen, have Rob and I, who are in states where really, I don't know, I guess this doesn't matter as much, let's say, the outwardly against homosexual people or LGBTQ community does not happen in New Jersey as much, does not happen in New York. You guys are in South Carolina and Texas, which for us is a different world to begin with, and now we're going to add this layer in. So throwing that out there is
there's times we went out of town this weekend to a little town called Wimberley, Texas. It's up in the hill country, and it was really cool to walk the streets. There was so you have the pride flag and the progress flag. The progress flag is the newer one. It's kind of got a triangle on it. It's got more color.
I was gonna ask what that was, because
more inclusive of a lot of stuff, and it's the newer one. So but you would go to businesses and it's not something you see in Texas a lot unless you're like in Austin or the big cities. And where we're at, I'm still surprised Target has the pride display up, but they had the stickers on the doors, and one business had the big pride flag. So it felt a lot different. And then as we came home, I remember I stopped at this gas station. I was just like, pump the gas and get out of town. But the political climate does weigh heavy at times. But fortunately, like on the work level, but the dog's out.
Sorry.
Work level, I have a very supportive crew. Our station is, and even if they don't agree, we just don't. This stuff doesn't come into the firehouse on my shift. Now you go to another shift, but the one captain I relieve on the D shift, he's up waiting for me in the morning. He's got that Fox News on in the office, and he's just talking about it, and he'll make comments about Democrats, and I'll just kind of go, "You've been relieved. You can go home now." Because we're not going to have this conversation. You picked the wrong audience.
You could watch whatever you want, but now the remote is mine now. I'm changing it.
I just turned it up. I don't actually watch the TV at the station in my office. I'll go watch it with the guys, but they mounted it up there, and you have to sit in the recliner. So I just I'm like, I don't need this. But fortunately for my crew, we just don't talk about the politics stuff. So it does add a layer at the station, I think, when it does, because I have filled in at other stations and I've been like, they're literally yelling at each other about the same point, just trying to be louder. I'm like, aren't you both arguing the same? And I'm just like,
you win a firehouse argument. You are louder than you don't have to be right or wrong, or you're just louder.
Yeah. And I walk in, I'm just like, y'all haven't left this table for 2 hours and I'm going back to the office and shutting the door.
How about with you, Keri? You know, with what's going on in the world where you are?
I don't know about you, Dallas, but I get a lot of like assumption conversations. Like, just because I am gay is like, oh, so you're a Biden lover and you voted this, you voted that, and like you like this is what you believe, huh? This is what like, and they are putting words into my mouth all the time and
Yes.
wanting to like get a rise out of me. And I don't talk politics at the fire station. I just don't. That's how I like create my boundaries on that. Like
Oh yeah.
I am not I'm not gonna set myself up for that conversation or that like drama. I don't like drama. And so there are a lot of Republicans in the South and a lot of really
Passionate. You could do the passionate
yes,
ones.
yes,
There
that's
you
The
go.
nice way to put very passionate.
yes, that's the word I was looking for. Very passionate people about that party and about those things. And that's fine. They can believe what they want. Just let me believe what I want and don't shove it in my face because I don't shove it in yours.
Or tell me I'm
And
wrong.
exactly. Like we can have a an intellectual conversation, but as soon as it gets out of hand or like I'm right, this and whatever, and starts an argument, then I'm like, all right, we got to back this up.
Mhm.
Let's take a break. This is not where I want this conversation to go. And I don't like that heated conflict. Like
Yes.
you can agree to disagree or whatever all day long, but as soon as it just becomes a fight, like an argument, that's
Mhm.
when I shut it down and I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this because it's making me feel toxic and I don't like that. Um,
Do you
so
think that like people, because I oftentimes that I like I've struggled with the concept of privilege before because it's just like in the last couple of years I started to actually take a look at it. But like one thing that I've had the conversation with other firefighters about is I said like, listen, you've never like tell me the last time that you went on a date with a female as a you know like in a male female relationship and somebody shunned you for it, somebody told you that it was wrong, somebody told you that it was against God's will, and all these very personal attacks. As it's like when we're I said when we're talking with somebody about this, like I always have to kind of remember to approach it from this the sideline, like in it, whether it be politics, like you're talking about Dallas, or like the assumptions of things, because like we've my life, I have just essentially lived my life, and I think the biggest thing that I ever got upset that people assumed was when Rescue Me first came out. I was trying to go on a couple dates, and people thought I was like Tommy Gavin in the fire station, just like man whoring myself. And they're like, "No, I saw that show. I don't want to date you." And I was like, I think it's really flattering that you think that I'm that good.
I was just
Maintain the alcoholism and
thinking that.
all these
There's-
things, like,
There was a compliment in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
but and I always like I said, like, just take a little bit of the humanity side of it and understand that, like, because that's the one thing that I really had like that like I'll say personal growth on, is to know that, like, hey, like I've never experienced like what Dallas had. Like when Dallas and I talked, it was probably Dallas by far has been one of the best interviews I've ever done in my life, because it was so real. And at the end of it, I just remembered being because like there was just so much that I got from that. And like you the two of you, and I would have, I don't want to assume, but like in ways have had to you know like go against the grain and how you want to, and just being who you are, and especially when you're in like South Carolina and Texas. And I always try to like just kind of drop that and be like, you like, I tell my guys and girls, because it doesn't really, it's like people can be bigots in both sexes, it doesn't matter, right? But like I say, like, you've never had to fight, like nobody's ever persecuted you for your beliefs, and you can't use politics because there's they're yelling at each other all the time. Like, I mean, who you are, who you love, how you choose to love. Nobody's ever gone and made you feel bad about it before. or just tried to go again, like, you know, in that context. And it's so like, I just, and then I get angry. So, but,
Well, no, I mean, it's like they want to argue that your existence isn't valid at times, you know, like,
Even though you're standing right in front of them.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
like, you know,
here. This is me. Look,
yeah,
you're telling me I can't be here.
yeah, you know, and like I said, and the persecuted, and then you have the people that want to talk to you, you know, the religious side of it, this, that, and the other, and why it's wrong. And I'm like, who amongst your other friends have you ever sat and had this conversation? What other coworkers have you gone? Have you gone and talked to the guy that's on his third marriage and everyone's been broken up because of an affair? Have you tried to discuss that with him? You know, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, you know, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, so why is it me? Why is it us? And yeah, at times it does get heavy. And when you kind of turn it on some a little bit, and then you also, we actually have in our rules and regs, the political and religious discussions are not to be had at work. Doesn't work at all. Like they wasted the ink in writing that. But you know, I've thrown that in, not now. I've been in the past, I've been like, hey, we're technically not supposed to have this conversation. It's a little bit of an out for me, but it ended it. No.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like those conversations, they can get a little sensitive towards other people. So I don't know about you, Dallas, but I can kind of sense somebody's view before I even talk to them, or like if you know, like how they're interacting, or like whatever they're wearing, or whatever, you know, like what their beliefs are or whatnot. And so I know I told you I don't hide it, but I also kind of avoid situations like that. And so if they ask me a question about my family or something, I feel that out in them, like who they are first. And then I will either choose to say my wife, or I'll just say my partner. So I am vague, or I just be even more vague depending on that, just because I don't want that conflict, or to create any ill, and like,
Yeah, there's no reason to go down that road all the time. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just easier to just move on, and that's gonna be them.
Yeah.
And it goes, I think, too, in the generalized political conversation, because I think everyone probably has that rule that you're not supposed to be talking politics at the firehouse,
Yeah.
Right.
even
Like
though
if
it occurs, or religion or anything like that.
yeah.
But I think what I'm hearing, at least from what you're saying here, is that, you know, sometimes it's just easier to it's almost like a walk away. Like it's almost like,
Yeah.
you know, you're a little kid and you're about to get into a fight, and you should probably just walk away. And it's
Right.
your decision.
Right.
At
If I
times.
know there's staunch religion, like, and like all about that, and I say my wife or something, then they're gonna go off on me, and that's not like the thing that I want to do. You know? So I avoid that sometimes.
A lot of times they'll say, are you married, this, that, and the other? And I like to cut if I feel like it's a person I can talk with and like have a conversation with, and we can be cordial, I'll say, well, I have a partner, but we don't have a law firm or a flower shop. And it throws them off. They're like, oh, you're not partners. Oh, partner. Oh, you know, just kind of break the ice a little bit, you know. And but that's, you know, if I felt like, okay, this is a person I can do. If they're not, I'll just say, yeah, I have a partner, and he's a scientist, and then like, bye.
You could probably say to someone and they still look back at you with like a blank stare, like, I don't get it.
I said that to a guy not too long ago. I said, I have a partner, yeah, and we don't have a law firm. And they were like, it was like painful. Like
you could see the smoke.
Yeah, I was like, and then all of a sudden he goes, oh, he did the whole like that.
You know, and it's one of those things too, because we consistently have this, I don't want to say thrown in our face, but it's thrown in your face on social media, at least. You know, we're as firefighters, we're here for them, and we're here for them, and we have to help them. And for some of these folks that may be bigoted or racist, or whichever terms we want to use to describe them, listen, you're here for them. You don't know who they are when the room is smoky and dark, or what they believe, or anything. So why should it matter? It's even worse that you're bringing it up and making it an issue with me, your coworker. You know?
always kind of sometimes feel it just shocks me. I mean, Houston's huge. I don't know how many we have, but our largest we were like 4,100, and how guys would act surprised. We have 90 something fire stations and something, and then they'd be surprised that out of these 4,000 people, oh, there's a gay guy, and I'm like, yeah, we were bound to slip through the cracks at some point.
We got one. I found it.
I'm the one as well.
I feel like you may have more than one though in Houston. I would just go.
Oh no, there's plenty.
No.
That's always my joke. Yeah, there's a good bit of us, and we're in the we do the thing in the Pride Parade. They used to put a really nice truck, and the union puts a truck in it now. And lots of people come and ride and support and stuff like that. So yeah, no, there's from district chief down, and I don't know of anybody in the admin, but I try not to get involved with the administration.
Smart move, right, Robert?
Very much so.
But it's good to see again. Like I do feel like, even though I think we spent a little bit of time on the negativity end of it because that's going to be there, but I do feel as though we're moving forward, right? I feel as though the fire service is progressing in the acceptance and tolerance of everyone, race, religion, sexual preference. We're nowhere near where we should be at all, but we are progressing.
Probably everybody but Florida, but
could be a whole different state down there.
I think we are. I think from what I saw when I started as a volunteer in '96, right out of high school. Oh man, my first night as a volunteer, they were having an we call them after action now, but they called it something for a fire they made. And this guy just kept bragging. He kept calling it the Fruit Loop fire. Well, I'm a young volunteer sitting, I don't know. And it was a gay couple that had gotten a fight and lit the house on fire. And they pulled one of them out. Apparently he was naked and all. So that was my first day. Like I said, hey, I want to come volunteer. And they said, okay, here's our meeting. The volunteers had a meeting. It was Wednesday night. And I'm sitting in the back of the room, and they just kept, and they used the other word, the F-bomb, not the fuck it bomb, but the other one all the time in that conversation. But you could tell people in the room are like, this isn't okay, but nobody would say anything because the guy that was saying it was the assistant chief. But that was my first. That would not happen today, I can guarantee. And I think it probably is a small podunk town that it might be okay yet, but for the most part, the fire service day, that wouldn't be acceptable behavior, in a meeting. That would be an HR followed by an HR meeting.
Many HR meetings after that, for sure.
I mean, that was in '96. I mean, years ago. That was, that's not that long ago, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you because I graduated high school in '96 as well. It's not that long ago. 100% agree on that part of the statement. But it's good to see that progressing forward. And and Keri, you were just at FDIC, we were there too, and I feel like at least this year was the first year that I could say there were, the easiest way to put it is less people that look like me. I felt like there were many different minorities represented there, many female firefighters there. There always are a fairly large amount of female firefighters at FDIC, but even more this year than in the past. Had you been before, Keri, or was this your first time?
Yeah, last year as well.
Okay. So, I mean, did you get that feeling, when you were out and about and different things that were going on there as well?
Yeah. I feel like there was more females than I expected, and that's really awesome that they get really involved in different aspects of it. From the firefighter challenge to different booths and to all the activities and whatnot. And the last year I did attend the Women in Fire conference, and that was pretty fun to see all the women, just individually, like in classes and stuff. And I mean, there were men in there too, but and then the instructors being like a lot of them being female. There were,
I feel like there
males,
were female instructors this year too, like from what I remember reading through the pamphlet there. which again,
Mhm.
it has progression. You know, we are not going to change the fire service with the Size Up by National Fire Radio podcast part 2 here. But I feel like we can help make it, again, leave it better than we found it and keep trying to make it better. And
Absolutely.
the toolbox that you guys have kind of laid out here over the past hour we've been talking, and we didn't have a plan in the beginning for how this was going to go, but I really do think that the two of you have given folks a very good toolbox to go to if they're in a situation that they may have to think about something, right? And be like, what do I do here? Let me pull this tool from my toolbox.
Yeah.
You know, I listened to the FDNY Pro podcast, and it was like very good to listen to. It was episode 88, and it was Battalion Chief Michelle Fitzsimmons and Rochelle Rocky Jones, who had retired, and like to hear their stories, and especially for Rocky, who was like one of the first females hired back in the day, and like I've heard her story a couple times. Like it's like to see where we are now, and like I was so proud of the fire service in listening to that podcast, because of just like, because I know that we've made huge strides when it comes to all of these things, but we still have a lot of work to do, in my opinion. You know, I mean, my department, we hired our first female this year, and you know, like it came with a lot of learning, and then she had a kid, so now we're learning all the like the stuff for, you know, like for like the maternity leave and everything else, and that and like it was a big thing, but like I'll give everybody credit here too, like they accepted it with open arms, and you know, I'm happy to see that happening more and more.
I look forward to the day where we're not hearing the first female or the first Black person or the first gay person or the first transgender or like all this. Like, I look forward to the progression to be even that much more impactful, and that we can just be employees in fire service. We could be firefighters.
Yeah.
We're not.
That's what we all want to
Yeah.
be, right? That's it. That's
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be a firefighter, or should. Everybody that's at work should want
Yeah.
to be a firefighter. And then that's
Yeah.
really the title, right? And then all these other
Yeah.
things kind of come with it. But you know, it'd be great to not hear the first, you know, anymore.
Right.
We're getting there.
You're
you know?
a firefighter, a paramedic, you know, a chief, like whatever it is. That's your term. That's who you, like, what you are, not who, like, it doesn't matter like who you, like what you are. It's
Right.
how you do
There's
the
always
job.
going to be that small group that it is going to matter, that they're always going to be there. But I think if that group that it doesn't matter to, and like I said, in the first whatever's gone away, that's the voices that need to be louder. And that don't let the little group that those things matter to, or that it bothers them, don't let them be the voice that is the voice of reason per se, you know, when they aren't in all actuality. You know,
And I think too,
you got to drown the haters and the bigots out.
And
Yeah.
in your way that I think we're doing that, at least I know it in my department for sure. You know, when I got hired and took firefighter 1, I went to a fire academy, and it was 4 weeks long. And then we were like, hey, you're on fire engine now. Now we're running our own academy, and it is, I don't even know, 3.5 or 4 months long. Maybe we're up to 5 months now at this point. And in their training, they're learning the history of our department, and they're learning inclusion. You know, the HR class that we get, however often we get it, is being taught to them in the academy, and it's being stressed more and more, and they're being taught by our own firefighters. Our female firefighter is their assistant instructor, one of our females. And it's just this new world that we're in now that, hey, we're going to keep moving this ball forward, and they're going to be better firefighters. They come out better firefighters than I was when I came out of the fire academy, for sure.
That's really awesome.
Like, you know, Keri, Dallas, like, I'm trying to think how to pose the question, but like, what are things that
what can we do better? Is that what you want to ask?
Yeah. Like,
what can we do better?
Not being done that should be done to help? Because I mean, Pip Pip's in New Jersey, so they're teaching inclusion. We're teaching the same thing in New York. And this is old hat for us, but like, what is it that the fire service can be doing better? Because we're always listening after a fire. If we went to a job right now, the four of us would be on the back step afterwards, and I'd be like, all right, like, first off, I know I'm out of shape, so I'm breathing a little heavy, but I'm working on it, you know. But like we'd have that conversation. So like, what can we do better for the fire service? Like, what are we
We're looking
missing?
for backstep takeaways as we
Yeah.
wrap up the episode here. What are some backstep takeaways?
I think one of the things, and Keri touched on it, and we both have it, is helping to correct behaviors, but not make it when you correct it that you're an asshole. You know, if they don't seem receptive at first and all, you know, circle back to it later. Maybe the moment in time just wasn't right. I know one of the big things as an officer, like if we have a problem with somebody, the first thing you have to do is pull them in and find out what's going on that's affecting this, right? Why are you being this way? And that's something you can do too. You know, why do you think this is okay? Okay, you say you, and Rob touched on this earlier. You had the guy that says, well, I have a friend who's gay and he lets me act this way. Well, turn it around a bit. He goes, but have you truly ever acted this way in front of your friend? Or are you just doing that because you're in the fire station in front of your buddies right now? And just, you know, and I think that's a big thing, a lot of it, you know, I don't know if Rob, you were here earlier when I was talking about the guy who dropped a derogatory word right in front of me at shift change. And we had been up and I could have lashed out. I had every right to, you know, also had every right to go downtown and file a complaint on him, but that's not my mode of operation. I waited, I got home, drank a cup of coffee, calmed down, and then I called his captain. And his captain goes, yeah, we shouldn't use that word in the fire station. Then he stopped. He goes, actually, that word just shouldn't be said at all. So I think the biggest thing is like Keri said, with teachable moments, you know, correcting behavior, you know. I mean, it's the same thing if we were at a fire, let's say we all went and Pip couldn't force the door and we worked with him. The next fire couldn't force the door and we worked with him. We're going to correct the behaviors until we get it right. Right. It's the same with, you know, social issues and respect of each other. You know, that's just my personal.
I can force doors, by the way. I can totally force doors. I'm just going to throw it out.
It was just an example, Pip.
I'm just saying.
I can totally go off
tomorrow now. I'm gonna practice so much tomorrow on the forcible entry trainer now because I'm like, if I don't do this, it's gonna be over for me.
Oh,
yeah, right on engine 10, I can tell you that much for sure.
Go ahead.
It's a little off subject, but they started buying forcible entry doors and posting them around the city. And so I had a guy fill in from the station that had the forcible entry door. And I said, force that door. And he was looking at the howling and like, when did we get these? And finally I was like, move, you know, and I'm like, you're at the station with the forcible entry door. And my rookie was standing there looking at him like, I said, I don't know. The fire's getting worse. Please move.
Really need to get in there now.
Yeah. I wrote his captain a nice little email. Hey.
They want to work on this a little more. Go ahead, Keri. What do you got for a takeaway here as we're getting closer to wrapping up?
Just to bounce off of Dallas, what he said, like after like creating that that positive reinforcement or that correction or something, just reiterating that your station is a safe space, and if anybody doesn't want to be in that space, ask for a transfer, or you know, like go find your people. But if you absolutely support those minorities like us or whatever, then stand up for us and make that safe space, create that safe space and correct those negative behaviors. So then others around you and around everybody else knows that this crew is a safe crew. This crew is the one I want to be on. This crew is the one that I can come to and I can talk to. And I can, if I haven't came out yet, I can, you know, take them aside and talk to them, or, you know, like whatever it is, like they feel safe with you. I think that's a very important thing that hasn't really been done a whole lot within the fire service. Is just making that known, like that your station or your crew is a safe space to discuss whatever, you know, like you have your table talk, you have, you know, your dinner conversations or something, that's something that could be said, like just if anybody wants to talk about anything, doesn't have to be LGBTQ related or whatever, but like if you need to talk about something, you are allowed to in this firehouse. And so I think that's really important to validate that and to let your crew know that that you can be a family, that you can support one another, and talk about those things.
And that's the key, as you said it right there. It's supporting one another, right? And letting them know, we again, with peer support teams and with being more open about feelings and what calls do to us and how we process them, this is just one more of those things. And calling it, I never really thought to call it a safe space before, but that's exactly what it is for all of us, to express our feelings and to maybe, not go into that third marriage, divorce, whatever you want to call it, because on your first one, you spoke to some folks that maybe have been down that road and can help you not go down that same pattern of failed firefighter marriages, which we see occasionally happening.
I thought too, Keri, like when you said that, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, when you started to say the station is a safe space, I was just going, oh Jesus, if I have to talk to the guys about making the firehouse a safe space, they're going to like, they're just gonna like, I know what I'm gonna hear, and I'm not like, we're gonna be doing like training. But the one thing that like what I picked up onto it was I thought about like everything we do in the fire service for like hose line advancement and putting water on the fire, and we're creating a survivable space. So why wouldn't we create a survivable space in our own station for somebody who's struggling or just trying to live their life? And that like in that moment I flipped the script on like creating a safe space and related to creating survivable space in a burning building. I'm going to do the same thing in my station because I don't care who's here. I want them to be comfortable. I want them to have all of those things because ultimately, if they don't have that, they're not going to be an effective member of our team because they're going to be worried about other things.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. We should make that a sticker.
It's going to be the title.
Hand them out.
The title of this episode. And
yes.
I think like, Rob, you just bringing it home there at the end with the survivable space. Like, I think the four of us have a class we could do at FDIC next year. Like we could put in a class now with the tool. Probably not
Absolutely.
Rob. You two could definitely do it and steal what Rob and I said. But
I'll just do the intro for you. I'll be like,
oh no.
Yeah.
But I want not to drag it out.
No.
That hit with me, Rob. It really did. Because I've used the space thing like so much. Like my home is a safe space. When Mark was with the university, he was an advisor to one of the LGBT groups who Texas A&M literally told him when he was on the board, we just have you on here because we need the space filled. He didn't have an opinion. But we would host events here, like mixers for come, and all these young undergrads would come to these things. And I was always telling them, this is always a safe space for you. But survivable takes me back to my early days. I was trying to survive in the fire service. And if I'd had that crew that let me know that this is a safe space and it's survivable, those younger years might have been a lot different.
100%.
That would be my,
That is awesome. And I'm so happy we got together and did this. And we probably shouldn't wait until June to do it again next year. And we can definitely. What's that?
Technically, it's still May.
Technically, today is still May, but the episode's coming out in June. Remember, I think last year, by the time we got our schedules to work out, we were recording in June, but it really came out in July or like the last day of June. We're like, we just got it in. So we're ahead of the curve.
I think it worked out great last year. It is 100%.
Absolutely.
But we're definitely going to keep this going. And I really do that, that survivable space will be the title of this. And I really do feel like it's something we can all springboard off of in our own stations to try to get that message out there for this month. And it's awesome. So I want to thank you guys for coming along this journey with me again here in the Size Up by National Fire Radio, episode 20. You missed it, Rob. I get excited when I say the number because it just keeps going. Like it's kind of cool.
You're crushing it.
Yeah.
I'm crushing. I'm crushing it so much out there. We're just crushing it. Tuesday mornings with Pip are just crushing it. But I do love it. I'm gonna throw everyone's social media tags down in the show notes below, so you can find them however you're listening to us. As always, I want to thank the guests for coming on, our sponsors for this month, especially our newest sponsor, Modus Fire Rescue. You can use code the Size Up and save yourself 5% on any of their really cool fire tools they make. And maybe a cool fitness tool that'll be coming out soon from them that I may know something about or not. I want to thank Jeremy for again giving me this chance to have the Size Up back on. And until next week, we'll talk to you then.